ॐ अज्ञानान्तिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितां तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमा ॐ महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतुषे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नाम चिन्तामणि कृष्ण चैतन्य रस विग्रह पूर्णशुद्धो नित्यमुक्तो अभिनत्वां नाम नामिनो। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधारा श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Now I shall be reciting Gita Mahatmya shlokas. गीतशास्त्रमिदं पुण्यं यः पठेत् प्रयतः पुमान् विष्णुपदमवाप्नोति भयशोकादिवर्जिता। गीतध्यायनशीलस्य प्राणायाम परस्य च नैव शान्तिः पापानि पूर्वजन्म कृतानि च। मलिने मोचनं पुंसां जलस्नानं दिने दिने सकृद्गीतामृतस्नानं संसारमलनाशनम्। गीता सुगीतकर्तव्य किं मन्ये शास्त्रविस्तरे यः स्वयं पद्मनाभस्य मुखपद्मविनिश्रिता। भारतामृतसर्वस्वं विष्णुवग्रविनिश्रितं गीतगङ्गोदकं पीत्वा पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दना पार्थो वत्सा सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। एकं शास्त्रं देवकी पुत्र गीतम् एको देवो देवकी पुत्र एव एको मन्त्रस्तस्य नामानि यानि कर्मापि एकं तस्य देवस्य सेवा। हरे कृष्ण। One second. Hare Krishna, can everyone see?
Yes, it's clear.
That's fine. Hare Krishna to everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances to each and every one of you. I would like to start off by thanking the Lord for giving me an opportunity to glorify Him, as well as Ram Krishna Prabhu and Satyamataji for providing me this platform. If I make any mistake, please do forgive me and let me know. Hare Krishna. So today, I have been given the service of speaking on the seventh chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, titled Jnana Vijnana Yoga, Knowledge of the Absolute. And the seventh chapter is actually the beginning of Unit 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita is divided into three parts. We have Unit 1, 2, and 3. Unit 1 mainly talks about the Karma Yoga. Unit 2 talks about the Bhakti Yoga. And Unit 3 talks about Jnana Yoga. So chapter 7 is the beginning of Unit 2, and it's titled Jnana Vijnana Yoga. So what is Jnana? Jnana is phenomenal knowledge. That is knowledge that is material, spiritual, that discusses the material and spiritual energies of the Lord. It's very theoretical. And then you have the Vijnana Yoga, that is numinous knowledge. That is the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and how sweet He is. This is also called as the realized knowledge. And this realized knowledge is way more important than the theoretical knowledge. But Lord Sri Krishna is giving us both of these in this chapter. So let us understand the connection. So as I've explained before, as Tulsi gave a wonderful example analogy using this box, the unit 2 is the main jewel of the Bhagavad Gita, and that is what we're going to be discussing. And also, those who do not know Krishna are in illusion, right? And so the knowledge of Krishna is liberation, and ignorance of him is bondage. So there are primarily six sections for this chapter. The first section is knowing Krishna full by hearing about him. The second section is knowing Krishna as the source of both material and spiritual energies. Third is the three modes are controlled by Krishna, and therefore we have to surrender unto him. The fourth is the four kinds of uh, impious people who do not surrender, and the four kinds of pious people who surrender to Krishna. Next is the demigod worshippers and impersonalists, and how their surrender is misplaced. And lastly, we have the bewilderment of the living entity and also the knowledge of Krishna. So let us move on to section 1, knowing Krishna in full by hearing about him. Would anyone like to read the first sloka along with its translation? Yes, Rata.
श्रीभगवान् उवाच मय्यासक्तमनः पार्थ योगं युञ्जन्मदाश्रयः असंशयं समग्रं मां यत ज्ञास्यसि तत् शृणु. Translation: The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt.
Thank you, Rata. As Krishna said, just hear, touch Shunu, just hear from me. See, how to know Krishna? How do we know about Krishna? We have to hear from him. We have to practice Bhakti Yoga with our mind always thinking about Krishna in full consciousness of him. Then we can know Krishna properly. And what is the process? To concentrate the mind. That is, we have the nine folds of devotional service, right? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, all of those nine, right? And the first and foremost is Shravanam. So you have to hear. And Krishna says, just hear. From who? From me. That is right. Krishna says, hear it from me. Touch, Krishna doesn't say, hear from Brahma, or hear from Shiva, or hear from this bogus guru. Nothing. Krishna says, hear from me. Right? And then, if you hear from Krishna, he'll give you the knowledge. But one more thing you have to understand is that it is not possible to have the complete knowledge of Krishna because his qualities are unlimited. Thus, Krishna gives the essential information about himself so that we realize our true position and we can understand him. Now, uh, the process of understanding Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, 17 to 21st verses. The steps for advancement are as follows. Number one, hearing about Krishna uh, or from him by hearing, right? Second, then Krishna acts in the heart. Krishna in the heart acts as a best wishing friend. Then three, Krishna purifies the devotee who is constantly engaged in his service. Four, then there is a natural development of dormant transcendental knowledge. Five. Now, by hearing about him continuously, one becomes fixed in devotional service. Then we get freed from the modes of passion, ignorance, and even material lust and avarice are diminished. Then what happens? One becomes steady in pure goodness. One becomes enlivened by devotional service and understands the signs of God perfectly. Then what happens? The hard knot of material affection is severed, and then one comes to the stage of complete understanding of the supreme absolute truth. That is why Shravanam or hearing is very, very essential. Now, what is the definition of complete knowledge or transcendental knowledge? The definition is to know matter, spirit, and the source of both. These three things I will be discussing in a few slides from now. But just keep this in mind, it is to know matter, spirit, and the source of both. Now, what are the qualifications to receive such transcendental knowledge? One has to be a devotee and has to be surrendered in a bona fide parampara. That is a parampara that is directly started from the Lord. And it is also important to keep this in mind that this knowledge is very, very rare. Out of thousands, one may endeavor for perfection. And those who have achieved perfection, one may know me in truth. That's why it is a very rare opportunity to know about Krishna, and we should not take it for granted. One more thing is that we have to reach a stage where nothing remains to be known. This phrase in translation means that when one knows who's the source of all and the cause of all causes, and the only object of meditation of all yogis, right? Then all knowable becomes known. So if we know who's the cause of all causes, if we know who's the supreme, then everything else is not necessary. It automatically becomes known. We don't need to spend much time focusing on other aspects. If we know who's the supreme, then everything knowable becomes known. Now, there is this one big excuse. Many non-devotees say that bhakti is very easy. They think that to achieve God, we have to do some very tantric, difficult Ashtanga yoga or difficult practices, right? Or we have to give so much money to do big, glorious aritis. Right? That's why they say this bhakti yoga, this bhakti seems too easy, seems too simple. I don't think it is the right way. See, there is a very good refutation given to this. The first is that if the path is so easy, then why don't you choose this? Why do people think that they have to go for these so-called difficult paths, these unauthorized paths, put by these speculative scholars and philosophers? It all falls away. It does not lead to anything. The Lord Himself says that the Bhakti Yoga is the most supreme. And yes, Bhakti Yoga is easy because it requires no material qualification. In another sense, however, Bhakti Yoga is also very difficult because you're only able to do it by perfecting and developing a selfless devotion. And you cannot perform perfect Bhakti Yoga through any material techniques or any sort of material activities. That is, in that we cannot perform Bhakti Yoga in that way. In one way, it is easy because you don't need that much material qualification. You need no material qualification, honestly. Even the most illiterate of people can get into Bhakti Yoga. But it's also hard because to do proper Bhakti Yoga, you need to reach a certain stage where you're constantly thinking and meditating about Krishna. But we have to try doing that. That is the lesson we have to take from it. Now, we move on to section 2. Here, Krishna explains how, as I just mentioned before, the the goal of knowledge, what we have to understand is that spirit, matter, and the source of both. So Krishna is explaining that in this section. He says that he is the source of both material and spiritual energies, right? And our experience that we have as jivas is a combination of these two. So, if you all remember, when Tulsi first started the presentation, she said of how Bhagavad Gita mainly deals with five topics. You have Ishvara, you have Jiva, Prakriti, Karma, and Kala. So now we'll be discussing three out of these five in some detail. So first is material energy, Prakriti. This is discussed in Bhagavad Gita 7.4. This is also known as Apara Prakriti or Maya Shakti, right? It is the inferior energy of the Lord. It principally consists of eight elements, of which five are gross and three are subtle. It is this. This is what our bodies are made up of. All right. So the five gross elements are earth, water, fire, ether. Ether is sky basically. So earth, water, fire, air, ether. Right. And then you have the three subtle. That is, you have mind, intelligence, and false ego. So mind is basically what we associate with our desires and emotions, what constantly processing the information and registering impressions. That is what mind is. What is intelligence? Intelligence is our judgment or whether to do something is right or wrong. That is what intelligence guides us and what it gives us. And third is false ego. False ego is basically our constant thought process of I, my, me, or how we think that we are the body, we are not the soul. That is false ego, right? That is the material energy. It splits into five gross, three subtle. That's the primary. Then it has many, you have the 10 expansions of like the 10 senses, like nose, tongue, eyes, all of those are also present. Now, why do we need to know about this? Because we need to recognize the factual enjoyer. Material nature is an energy of the Lord. It is meant for the enjoyment of the Supreme Lord. It is not meant for our enjoyment. Right? So, the result of ignorance of signs of God, one assumes this world for his own enjoyment. That is a wrong idea. So, Jivas, you'll see, Jivas exploit material nature. They use material nature. You can use it for your own sense gratification or you can use it to serve Krishna. So, let us see how that works out. The living being, Jiva, is a superior energy. And this is also discussed in Bhagavad Gita 7.5. The superior energy is also known as Paraprakriti. Inferior energy is Aparaprakriti. This is Paraprakriti. And it's also known as Jiva Shakti, living entity. Uh, they are living beings, Jiva. They exploit the resources of material inferior nature for different purposes. Quality of their existence is one and the same with the Supreme Lord, but not in the quantity. So, just like the very famous example of a drop of water and the ocean. Qualitatively, both are same. Quantitatively, there is a difference. So, we Jivas are also superior energy. The Lord is also superior energy, but he's vast. A preaching application is that God and Jiva are never equal. Because Jiva, being the energy, is always under the control of the energetic. The Lord is the one who controls the energy. We are the energy. The Lord is the one who controls the energy. And thus, no independent existence. Jiva tends to get influenced by matter, while God never gets so. This point will be discussed further down the line. So please keep this in mind. How does how do we get influenced by matter? We are also known, the Jivas, also known as Tata Shakti, Tas, Tasta Shakti, or marginal energy of the Lord. Because although we are spiritual, we are part of the Lord and we are the spiritual energy. What happens is that we Jivas come under the influence and get conditioned, and we forget our actual position. That is why we are also known as the marginal energy of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 7.6, would anyone like to recite and translate?
Hare Krishna. एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीति उपधारय अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा. Translation: all created beings have the source in these two natures of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world. Know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution.
Thank you, Mataji. So, as I mentioned before, the Lord Himself says that He is the origin of both nature and Jiva, and He is also dissolution. So, He is the one who brings about, and He is also the one who destroys. So, now let's talk about the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, Ishvara. God is superior to both matter and living entity. So, He is superior to both Prakriti and the Jiva. And He is the one who creates, and He's also the one who destroys. He is also the one who maintains both the Prakriti and Jiva, and every single thing depends on him. And also, Krishna has no superior source or truth because he is the ultimate source. He is the absolute truth. So there is nothing beyond him. But there are a lot of people, atheists, who do not believe in that. So because of that, the Lord gives a very good analogy. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me. As pearls are strung on a thread. So just like you can see this nice pearl necklace. Although you don't see the thread, does not mean it does not exist. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? So similarly, although we cannot see the Lord, doesn't mean that He doesn't exist. That is a foolish thought. There is this knowledge. There's a story of how there is this vulture. It's a vulture and cow. It's a Bengali saying that there is this vulture who wanted to eat the cow, but the cow is not dead yet. So the vulture was saying, "Hey cow, go die," but the cow obviously did not die. Similarly, just because some atheists say that, oh, God does not exist, doesn't mean that it is factually true. It's completely false. God definitely exists. Now, one more thing we have to understand is that, see, everything, as I said, everything emanates from Krishna. It's all his energy, both the Jiva and the Prakriti. Everything comes from Krishna. So, does that mean that everything is Krishna? This is a question that can arise. Well, there's a beautiful analogy as well as a story to explain this. So, the analogy is like just like sun rays come from the sun, but the sun rays are not same as the sun. The sun rays and sun are two different things. Similarly, everything comes from Krishna and everything is the energy of Krishna, but everything is not the same as Krishna. There is a beautiful story to illustrate this by it's a Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was a little child. It's titled Nimai Eats Dirt. So one day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, little Nimai, was actually playing in the courtyard, and his mother was preparing some delicious prasad for him. So when she brought it out, Nimai starts eating the dirt from the ground. So then Mother Sachi asks Nimai, Nimai, why are you eating the dirt from the ground when I have prepared such delicious prasad? So then Nimai says that the prasad, whatever has been used to cook the prasad, all comes from the earth, and this dirt is also from the earth. So it has to be same, like both emanate from the earth, so we can directly take it. There's no difference. But that is when Mother Sachi explains that although the source of everything is earth, a pot, a well made pot can hold water, but a mud can't. Similarly, eating good foodstuffs or good prasad will make you healthy. But if you eat the dirt, you'll be sick. So the moral is what we have to understand is that the Lord enacted this platform to teach us that although everything emanates from the Lord, uh, everything is not the same as the Lord. This philosophy is known as Achintya Bheda Abheda. That is, simultaneously it's one, but it's also different. That is what we have to understand. Simultaneously is one, but it's also different. Now, Krishna is the essence and cause of everything. This is discussed in 7.8 to 11. When we drink water, it has a particular taste, satisfaction. What it truly is that it's actually a power of Krishna, Vibhuti. It's actually a power of Krishna. This, if we drink salted, if we drink seawater, we won't be satisfied. But if we drink pure, clean water, the taste of that water it emanates from Krishna. It's a power of Krishna. And some impersonalists do exist who think that, oh, this taste, impersonalists, I'll come, most of you are familiar with it, obviously, but I'll come explain who impersonalists in a few slides. But to understand, there are some people who think that the taste is who the Lord is, and they worship that. That is the wrong mentality. The true devotees of the Lord should understand that the Lord is supplying this water to us, and its taste is a power of Krishna. Similarly, the light of the sun and moon, the effulgence of Brahma Jyoti, that is the effulgence of no, the effulgence of Shri Krishna, that is Brahma Jyoti, that is what actually illuminates both the sun and the moon. And similarly, in total there are 14. There are 14 of such cases presented where it shows how the Lord, everything comes from the Lord. For example, the Om of Vedic mantras, the sound of ether, the ability of a man, the fragrance of earth or the punya, the heat of fire, not only the fire we have outside, but inside our stomach as well for digestion. That is also emanating from the Lord. The life of all living beings, the duration of life, that is also a power of Lord Shri Krishna. The penance of ascetics, the original seed, bijam of all existence, that is the 8.4 million species of life The original seed of all of these species of life came from the Lord itself. Then the intelligence of the intelligent, the prowess of all powerful men, the strength of strong, and the regulated sex life and religious principles. All of these are through the potency of Lord Shri Krishna. Now, in Bhagavad Gita 7.12, it is stated, know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I am independent. I am not under the moods of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. So the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, ignorance, these are all manifested because they're an energy of the Supreme Lord. But he's the energetic. We just saw that he's the energetic. The energy cannot affect the energetic, but the energetic can control the energy. So the Lord is not influenced by the material nature, but he can definitely control. Right? It's all within his control. There is the good analogy of how a king or a lawmaker is not subjected to the laws that he makes. Right? Similarly, Lord Shri Krishna, who creates these modes of material nature, is obviously not affected by these modes. That's why it's called Nirguna. Now we move on to section 3. In section 3, the Lord continues and says that the uh, three modes are actually Krishna's potency, and their purpose is to keep the conditioned souls in an illusion, right? But we all know that we have to break free from the illusion. So the way we do that is by taking shelter unto Krishna. Would anyone like to recite Bhagavad Gita 7.14?
दैवी हि एष गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मयम् एतां तरन्ति ते. Translation. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Devyani. So, Mam Eva, the Lord says, surrender unto me only, no one else, unto me, because only the Supreme Lord is the master of Maya. And as you can see, there is a word here, guna. Guna has another meaning. It also has a meaning grow, right? So let us look at another analogy. See, we all are conditioned souls, right? So we cannot ask another conditioned soul to help us, just like how this guna or the rope has bound us. So we cannot ask another bound man to help us. That makes no sense. We need to uh, reach out to a man who is completely free. Only that man can help us. So who is this man? This is a bona fide guru or a representative of Lord Shri Krishna, a spiritual master. Only they can release the conditioned souls because they themselves are not conditioned. So a bound man cannot help ask another bound man for help. That is nonsensical. It won't. The another bound man cannot help a bound man, right? So whoever is conditioned cannot help someone else who is conditioned to escape from the illusion. Only a person who is free from the conditioning of the soul, who has truly understood who Lord Shri Krishna is and who's what our eternal position is, only they can help us be unbound. Now, a question that can arise is that why do people not know and realize that the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna is the essence of all if he's everywhere? The answer to that is first, that our senses are clouded by the three modes of material nature. That we think of ourselves in bodily terms. We do not realize that we truly are the soul. Uh, we think that, oh, I am from this caste or I am from this country. I have this skin color. I have this profession. We define ourselves in those terms. That is the wrong way to do so. Second is now what happens because of this thought process is that we forget who the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna is, and we do not realize that we have to serve him, right? Because of all these thoughts. Now, this point is also needed to be mentioned that people think that the mode of goodness is also fine. It is like the best. Well, that is also wrong because the mode of goodness it limits the understanding to of the absolute truth till the level of the impersonal Brahman. It cannot help go beyond that. So, what should we do? That is where Krishna consciousness comes into play. If one is truly established in Krishna consciousness, this Krishna consciousness actually transcended even the mode of goodness, is even above the mode of goodness. So we have to try to be as much Krishna conscious as possible. So now we have seen of how why we need to transcend the three modes and why we need to surrender. That has also been discussed in the previous classes, right? So now we'll see in this section who are the four kinds of people who surrender and who are the four kinds of people who don't surrender to Krishna. So there are the four categories of miscreants. First, you have the mudhas. They are grossly foolish, like hard-working asses, beasts of burden. They work like donkeys day in and day out just to enjoy some small fruit of their labor, right? They don't know what jnana means. They work continuously, sleepless nights, no time for food. They suffer, but for that momentary self pleasure, they work like anything, and they're satisfied by that momentary self pleasure. These kinds of people are known as mudhas. Second is the naradhamas. Nara means human. Adhama means the lowest. So the lowest of mankind are called naradhamas, and most of the population is actually Naradhama. Naradhama means they are socially and politically developed, but they have no religious principles, right? So, like there are three kinds of civilized men, uncivilized, and then you have Naradhama. So, uncivilized is the lowest of lowest. Absolutely nothing. No religious principles, socially backward, politically backward. They're the worst of the worst, right? Then you have civilized. That is, they're socially developed, politically developed, like economically, they're all sound and good. And they're following the religious principles and trying to attain Shikshashna, right? Those are civilized men. And then you have Naradhama. That is, they are socially, politically, economically fine. They're doing absolutely fine. But they're not trying to attain Shri Krishna, right? They might have taken a bhakti and left it in between, right? So these kinds of people are known as Naradhama, or the lowest of mankind. Then you have the Maya Prahata Jnana, or the ones who are the deluded spectators. So these are the highly academically qualified people, right? They are maybe PhDs, they may be scientists, they may be engineers, poets, whatever. But they focus their knowledge on the wrong things. They're focusing their knowledge is stolen by the illusionary energy. They're not focusing anything on trying to understand the true questions of life. There is this one story. It is like there is this astronomer who is trying to navigate himself by looking at the orbits of the stars and the planets, and he's trying to walk, right? But then there is a ditch in front of him, and he doesn't notice, so he falls down into the ditch. And that is when a devotee comes and helps him out, and he says that, even without you calculating all of the parts, the planets will still be in motion, the star will be still in motion, but you have fell into this ditch. So the moral is that how much ever time you spend into gaining some materialistic knowledge, if you don't ask the right kind of questions of who am I, what is my purpose, then it is all a huge waste. Then lastly, you have the atheistic demons, or people who are envious about God. All right. So they are envious towards Krishna. They don't believe in his existence because they think that the primary thought is that they don't want any supreme existence to look into the kind of evil deeds they're doing, the bad deeds they're doing. They're afraid, so they completely neglect his existence. So there are people like these as well. And now these are the four kinds of miscreants, or people who do not surrender to Krishna. But now there are the four kinds of people who surrender to the Lord, and they have some characteristics. So the first is they are pious people, right? They second is they follow the different regulative principles and all of the scriptures, varnashram, all of that they are following perfectly. The third is they follow the basic moral, social laws, all of those they're following. And fourth is they are more or less devoted to Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, right? So let us look at who these four kinds of people who surrender to Krishna are. The first is the artha, or the distress. So one example is Gajendra. When he was fighting the crocodile, he was losing, and that is when he offered prayers to Lord Shri Krishna, and that is when he came to save Gajendra. Second is the Jignasu, or the inquisitive. An example for them is the Shaunakadi rishis. They were inquisitive people. Then third is the Artharthi, or the wealth seekers. An example is Dhruv Maharaj. So Dhruv Maharaj wanted the throne of the kingdom. right? So that is why he started doing, he started worshipping Sri Krishna and hope that the Lord will give him the throne, like that, right? And then lastly, you have the Jnani or the wise men. An example for Jnani is Sukadev Goswami. So now, amongst these four, we need to know who the best is, right? We need to know who the best is. So amongst these four, there are three Karma Mishra Bhaktas, and then there is one Jnana Mishra Bhakta. So the three Karma Mishra Bhaktas are the ones in distress, the inquisitive ones, and the wealth seekers. These are Karma Mishra Bhaktas because they surrender unto Krishna because they have some desire that they want to fulfill, right? But there is only one, that is a Jnana Mishra Bhakta. The Lord says that the wise, the Jnani is my favorite because he's in full knowledge of the absolute truth and he has no material desires. Right? He engages in devotional service. The Lord is very dear to him and he is also very much dear to the Lord. And also, it is not like the other three. The Lord does not like the other three. The Lord says that these other three are magnanimous because all of them come to Him to fulfill some sort of a desire, but there is a reciprocation of affection. So the Lord calls the other three as magnanimous or Mahatma as well. It is not like the other three are not good or anything of that sort. They come to the Lord. They surrender unto the Lord, even though they have some desires that they want to fulfill. The Lord is still the appreciates the reciprocation between the two parties, right? The Lord and the surrendered devotee. So the Lord is very happy about that. Now, there is also one more. So the three karma mishra bhaktas that I said, or you can call them sakama bhaktas, right? So you have the ones in distress, the ones who seek wealth, the ones who are inquisitive. There is one more. This is the moksha kami bhakta, right? So the moksha kami bhakta are those who surrender unto Krishna because they want to get liberation from old age and death. So those who want, so there are people who surrender to Krishna to get liberation from old age and death. There are those in distress, those in wealth seekers, and those who are inquisitive. These four are called Sakama Bhaktas, right? Because they have some desire. But the Jnani or the wise man, he has no material desire, and his goal is to understand the absolute truth, which is Sri Krishna. Now, what are the destinations of these four, the four people who surrendered unto Krishna? So if you're a jnani, then you have different layers of realization. So you'll first realize the impersonal Brahman, then you'll realize Paramatma, and then with full perfection, you'll realize Bhagavan, the transcendental form of Krishna, and you'll go back to him. But for the other three, what happens is that um, you will so they will do the work and they will they will start enjoying their material lives, right? And then what happens after many births, they will do this and they will enjoy their material opulence and whatnot. Whatever their desires, they will do it. But then in one life, what happens is that they will stop feeling any attraction towards the material pleasures. That is when they will stop and then they will gain knowledge of Krishna through some association of some great devotee. They will gain knowledge of Krishna, and then they will understand their supreme position, and then they will go back to Krishna. So this is the destination for all four of them. Now we move on to the next section. This is section 5. So here, um, so we just discussed about those who surrender to Krishna, those who don't surrender to Krishna. Now in this section, the Lord is explaining of there are people who surrender to some other entities. There are people who surrender to some demigods. There are people who have some impersonalistic ideas. So what about these people who surrender to such ideologies? How should we understand them? So the Lord gives us the knowledge. So first is the demigod worshippers. The demigod worshippers, they're called less intelligent because their intelligence is stolen by lust, right? Their intelligence is stolen by the material desires. So that's why Lord calls them less intelligent people. Why is this so? Because they lack the knowledge of Krishna. They don't realize Krishna is the supreme. They want quick fruits, right? Very fast. They want their results. So that is why they are tempted and start, worshipping these demigods. And and because of this, because they are motivated by these small, quick desires, they don't take the time to realize the supreme personality of God is Shri Krishna. And what is the result? Then they worship a demigod, and then they will go to these demigods' planets. They're still in the material world. It's a place of misery. So the demigods' planet is also a place of misery, right? So that is their result. So they worship demigods, they'll go to demigods planet, and they will that is also part of the material world. They don't escape the material world. But then, how can we understand the thought process of a pure devotee? A pure devotee understands that Krishna is the supreme master and all of us are the servants. And so he never goes to a demigod for material needs. It's not like we have to respect demigods. If we see a demigod, we have to pray that we get the kind of love they have for Krishna, so they guide us in the right direction. That is what we have to respect, and we have to pray these demigods, but we should not consider them supreme. That is the wrong attitude. And one more thing that I wanted to mention is that the benedictions or whatever is given by these demigods, it is like it is actually through Krishna, right? So the Lord is the one who gives these benedictions through these demigods, but it's temporary, just like bubbles in the cosmic ocean. It comes and it goes. It is not permanent. And that's why we have to understand that everything in the world happens because of the Lord's will. Not even a blade of grass can move without the Lord's will. So we need to understand this. So all fruits that the demigods give to their worshippers is actually given by Krishna through the demigod to the worshipper, but it's temporary. It is not permanent. Now a question can arise. Why does the Lord let the living entities fall into illusion? Right? Shouldn't the Lord be so merciful that He immediately gives us the knowledge and so we can go back to Him? Well, the thing is that we were all once with the Lord in the spiritual realm, but we were jealous of Him. We were thinking that I also want to be as strong as Krishna. I also want to be as wealthy as Krishna. I also want to be as handsome as Krishna, and all of these things, right? So that is why the Lord made this material world and sent us here. And so we need to have our own free will, right? We need to have our minute independence. So that is why the Lord gives us this facility. And what is this facility? It's the three modes of material nature to help us. And this three modes of material nature facilitates whatever we want to do. We have a complete free will, right? So the independence only makes sense when there is we also have the choice of doing other things, right? So that is why the Lord facilitates all of this. But He's very merciful in the sense that he gives the knowledge to go back to him. He gives the knowledge to the ultimate instruction. He gives the knowledge to the for the path of real happiness. He gives that as well. But also he gives us the independence to do whatever we wish. Right. So that is how we have to understand this particular uh, question. The answer to this question. That is how we have to understand. Just to recap, it is the Lord wants to give us full independence. That means that we have the choice to do whatever we want, right? So that is why He facilitates that through the three modes of material nature, so that we can do whatever we wish to do. But if we want to go back to Him, the Lord has given that option to us as well, because through the instructions that He gives, He has laid out the path for true real happiness, that is to serve. Now demigods are over. Now we go to impersonalists. Impersonalists are also called as abudhyaya. That means unintelligent. Impersonalists are called unintelligent. Demigod worshippers are called less intelligent. Impersonalists are called unintelligent, means they have no intelligence at all. The impersonalists are those who think that the absolute truth is impersonal. It has no form. It is very abstract, no attributes. So let us look. This is the impersonalist philosophy. They think impersonal Brahman as the supreme thing, right? They think that the supreme is abstract. It's just a light, it's effulgence, no attributes, nothing of that sort. And then it thinks that all of the leelas that Krishna has done, he came down to this earth, it's all illusion. That's why they called Mayavadis, right? They think it's illusion, Maya. That's why they call Mayavadis. And then they also think that the Krishna is like an ordinary human being, he's not the supreme entity. And Krishna calls them fools, right? Fools deride me as a human. So Krishna calls them fools. So what is the knowledge that they lack? They lack the knowledge that Krishna knows the past, he knows the present, he knows the future. He is imperishable, he's supreme, he's unborn and infallible. They lack this knowledge. That is what they lack. So there is this one shloka in Bhagavad Gita 7.24. Unintelligent men, that is the impersonalists, who do not know me perfectly, think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality due to their small knowledge. They do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. So the Lord Himself says in the Bhagavad Gita that it is the unintelligent men who have such thoughts, and the intelligent men realize that I have a transcendental, supreme spiritual form, and they worship me as Bhagavan. The Lord says this, right? So we have to understand. Now, what is the result of people who are impersonal, right? Impersonalists. What is the result? First is that the Supreme Lord, absolute truth, hides from the foolish and intelligent. There's a Yoga Maya curtain. There's the curtain of the internal potency of the Brahmajyoti covers their vision, not the Lord's vision. It covers the impersonalist vision, and they cannot see the absolute truth. And so they won't know the true nature of Lord Shri Krishna as unborn and infallible. Yes. There is this analogy that we can look into. That is, the clouds may cover all the sun, moon, and stars in the sky temporarily, but this covering is only apparent to our limited vision. They are not actually covered. Similarly, Maya cannot cover the Supreme Lord. So we can interpret this in many ways. So first is the Lord is unaffected by Maya that we just saw before. Second is that for the impersonalists, their sight is covered by Yoga Maya, right? They cannot see the Lord, but the Lord can see everyone else, right? The Lord can see everyone else. So this is what we have to understand. Now we move on to section 6. So this is the last section. In this section, we discuss about the bewilderment and freedom by knowing Krishna. How we are bewildered, but how can we gain freedom by knowing Krishna? See, all living entities, as I mentioned before, are trapped in this material world because of a selfish desire, right? And they can become free by cultivation of devotion and surrender to Krishna in full knowledge. The original sin that we all did was to desire of being like Krishna, being an entity like Krishna, being the supreme enjoyer. That was our original sin, right? And our original hate towards him was envy. We were envious of Krishna. And now in this material world, we are covered by Maya, right? So because of that, we are in delusion. So what are the symptoms of delusion? How do we know that we are in delusion? First, a being wants to be one with the Lord. That is the original sinful desire of living entity. Second, we are envious of Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead, the original hatred of living entity. Third, the supreme personality of Godhead is created by material energy. They think the supreme personality of Godhead is created by material energy, right? And there are also the manifestations of dualities and delusions. Like the reason why no one knows Krishna is because they have this duality of like dishonor, honor, misery, happiness, woman, man, good, bad, pain, pleasure. Uh, People are always in affected by these dualities, right? So all living entities are born into delusion, right? At the beginning of creation, and we are all bewildered by the dualities. And how are these dualities? How did they come about? They came about because of our desire and our hatred that we continued from the previous lives, right? So that is why we are not able, that is why we are in delusion. And but how do we get out from this delusion? That is, we have to understand our real constitutional position as a subordinate of Lord Sri Krishna. We need to understand that we are the servants and Krishna is the master. If you do that, then this delusion will go. Now, is anyone in fact capable of overcoming illusion and becoming a pure devotee? Now, let us see what kind of qualifications we have to try to achieve so that we can become a pure devotee. So, the first is that uh, they have to have acted piously in this life and the previous life, thus ceasing to act according to desire and hate. Second is all of their sinful reactions are completely removed. And third is that they are free from the dualities of delusion, right? So that they have no honor, no dishonor, no hot, no cold, nothing. They're completely free from such things. Then they can completely serve, be engaged in the service of the Lord. It is said that the further it is difficult to transcend these kinds of people, like people who are atheistic, people who are sinful, people who are deceitful. For them, to transcend duality is very, very, very difficult, right? To transcend hate and desire is very, very difficult. But how can we try to transcend? That is by being situated on the spiritual platform. We can accept the process. We can start following the regulative principles. We can act pious. We can be engaged in Krishna's service. Then the Lord will slowly help us to transcend and be more Krishna conscious. That is what we have to understand. Now, what is the essence of chapter 7? So, in 7.30, the Lord says that Krishna conscious devotees can know Krishna at death and then go to him. So, it's like how our entire life is like the preparatory period for the exam, and our death is the actual exam, right? So, we can only go back to Krishna if at the end of our lives we can remember Krishna. And who remembers Krishna at the end of their life? There is a person who is in full consciousness of Krishna and knows him as Adi Bhuta, Adi Deva, and Adi Yajna. Then they can go back to Krishna. But what is the meaning of Adi Bhuta, Adi Deva, Adi Yajna? So Adi Bhuta means governing principle of all of material nature. Right? He's the one who governs the entire material nature. Adideva. He's the one who governs all the demigods. That is, the demigods are emanating from him, right? And then Adi Yagna. That is the governing principle of all sacrifice. That means all of the results of sacrifice, all sacrifices must be made unto Krishna. So that's why it's called Adi Yagna. So he is Adi Bhuta, Adi Deva, Adi Yagna. And anyone who knows this three things at the end of their life and remembers Krishna, they will go back to Krishna. Then it also this chapter also explains how to fully become Krishna conscious, and you begin with association with Krishna conscious people, and then it also discusses about the surety of the Krishna conscious path. You don't need to worship demigods. You don't need to have an impersonal, you don't need to go through the impersonal process. Nothing. You have to be Krishna conscious. And the beginning, this chapter gives the beginning of Bhakti Yoga. What is Bhakti Yoga? Bhakti Yoga is constantly thinking about the Lord and being in His full consciousness at all times, being Krishna conscious at all times. Whatever activity you do, you always think of Krishna. That is the peak of Bhakti Yoga, and that is what all of us are trying to do. So, to understand this chapter in the best way, there is an acronym, and that acronym is HEAD. So, HEAD. So, H stands for hearing, E stands for everywhere, A stands for accept or reject, and D stands for demigods. So, what is hearing? See, there are a lot of modern people who think that you should only believe in things that you can perceive with your senses. And that appears to be logical and rational, but it has its limitations. See, not everything can be understood by direct sensory experiences. That is why we have to rely on a credible authority. And who's that authority? There can be nothing greater than the Lord's words itself, right? So we have to accept a higher authority. We have to accept that Krishna is supreme. We have to listen whatever the Lord has said or whatever the bona fide gurus are saying, and then through the descending path of knowledge, that is the descending path, the hearing, the descending path of knowledge, we can understand Krishna. Then E, that Krishna is everywhere. He's present everywhere. And if someone asks the question, can you show me God? You just use the analysis that I gave you about the thread. That is, although the Lord is everywhere, He's the maintainer, He's the creator, He's the destructor, right? But we cannot see Him. Just like how you don't see the thread in the pearl necklace, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just because you cannot see your train doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? Similarly, although just because we can't see the Lord, we can see the effects. We can see how nature is working, the complexity of how everything is working, right? By seeing that, that should be more than enough proof that the Lord exists and that there is a invisible force that governs the entire universe. That we have to understand. Then accept or reject. See, you have the different methods, right? You have the four kinds of people who surrender to Krishna. You have the four kinds who don't surrender to Krishna, right? So we can choose whether to accept or reject Krishna, right? But the people who, sorry, we cannot choose. I mean, we can understand that there are the four kinds of people who accept Krishna, the four kinds of people who reject Krishna. So we can from A we can understand that, and then from D we see how there are people who surrender to different demigods or take up other impersonal paths. to try and understand the absolute truth, which does not work. The only way to understand the absolute truth and our actual position as servitors of Krishna is to understand that Krishna is Bhagavan, he has a transcendental form, and that we have to serve him to the best of our capabilities. That is it. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Krishna, thank you, Madhava.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice, wonderful, very good. So, just to introduce Madhava. Madhava is, in fact, those who have heard his earlier chapter also. I think you did the fourth chapter, Madhava, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, fourth
Fourth.
chapter. Yeah, and today he has done the seventh chapter. And Madhava is the dear son of His Grace Dina Pavana Madhava Das Prabhu and Her Grace Namiralika Devi Dasi Mata. And Madhava is pursuing his engineering graduation in India in Ahmedabad. You're in the second year?
Yes, Madhu.
Second year, yes. So very nicely, Madhava has given us this wonderful understanding. And also Madhava has done his Bhakti Shastri. He's a wonderful Mridanga player and also pursuing his very wonderfully being, though he's in his doing his academics, but partly he's also pursuing, trying to be Krishna conscious and being in the association of devotees and very wonderfully taking up this path like a fish takes to water. Thanks, Madhava, for enlightening us in this wonderful chapter. In fact, this is the start of the second section, as Madhava said, and it sets the mood of Bhakti Yoga. And specifically, Prabhupada also in his purport last verse, it is 1.30, he talks about determination because we need to be very, very determined in order to pursue this path of Bhakti. And that was brought up very nicely by Madhava. Thanks, Madhava. A very big hand to you. Hari for making you. So, has any questions to ask?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Brahman.
Hare Krishna, Madhu.
Mataji, thank you so much, Madhavan. Very nice class. But few questions raised in my mind, so I need to ask. What is the difference between the worshipper of demigods and the worshipper of Lord who are in distress and seeking for money? Because for both of them, their motives are material, not
Yes.
the Lord.
Mhm.
So, what is the difference?
Mataji, so it's like how the analogy of you directly water the tree, the roots of the tree instead of the individual parts. So when you go to the Lord appreciates, even though you have some materially you want something back, the Lord is actually very pleased that you came to Him, right? That reciprocation of that affection, the Lord really enjoys. That's why He even calls them magnanimous. But if a person, rather than choosing to go to Krishna, he decides to go to some other demigod for some of the like to get some material boon or benediction, then the Lord misses that reciprocation, right? And so because of that, so because of that, it is not that good to directly approach demigods. If you directly go to Krishna, he will not only help you by giving whatever like the by doing everything properly, desire for something, he will give it to you, but he also enjoys that relationship that is formed. And also, as I said, the three kinds of the ones in distress, or the wealth seekers, or the jnani, the inquisitives, right? These three people, after many births, they will eventually start to develop. They will develop the feeling of Krishna consciousness. They will feel that material desires are repulsive, and then they will go back to Krishna. But that is not guaranteed for demigod worshippers, although both of them want material things, but because one goes directly to Krishna, is more pleased with him.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to know, like, you have named like elements of inferior energy, like in subtle, there is intelligence, mind, and ego. Is it ego or false ego? You
False ego.
mentioned false ego.
Yeah, false. Did I write ego? False ego.
No, Now, I always heard like it is ego. Maybe because these all inferior elements is from the Krishna only. Now, so it must be ego only or true ego. I don't know. Mataji will tell better.
Mataji.
False ego only. Why? Because
Hmm.
true ego, we all should have true ego or real ego. Real ego is being the servant of Krishna. That is real ego, true ego. False ego means I, my, me. Because when we take on this covering, when we become conditioned, then that is where the false ego comes into play. That means we think I, mine, and me. So that is false ego. That
But
is
these are the elements of inferior energy. Na? So I thought maybe like it is all coming from Krishna. So I thought it might
false ego.
be.
False ego
Hmm.
comes also from there. In fact, the combination how this false ego comes is also given in the second canto of in the fifth chapter, wherein when this ignorance combines the Mahatattva and all, the whole cycle is given. That is where the false ego comes in. So, what is mentioned by Krishna in this particular chapter is mind, intelligence, and ego, which is a false ego. Because false ego is material, mind is material, intelligence is also material. All these are material.
So we all have false ego only.
Yeah, we have to transcend. We have to transcend from that false ego and come to the real
One more
ego, which is Jiver Swarupohai Krishna Nityadas.
thing. One more thing, you mentioned one word, mokshakami bhakta,
Hmm. Yes,
that
Mataji.
wants liberation. That is, they don't want
Hmm.
to come in cycle of birth and death.
Hmm.
And the jnani is the wise person. Also, they want to go Goloka. They don't want to come in this world and this
Hmm.
cycle of birth and death. What is the difference then?
Mataji, the jnanis, they have no material attachment. They are in search for the absolute truth. But uh, the the ones, it's kind of a selfish thing if you look at it. Like it's a material attachment that they have. Like they don't want to live in this material world anymore. It's because of the suffering here, not because the primary goal is not to serve Krishna, but more of that how
Mm,
they don't want to
mm,
suffer and age here and die
mm,
continuously. So that is at the back of their mind, right? But for jnanis, it's completely about knowing about Krishna, knowing about the absolute truth, and serving him with absolutely no material attachments.
mm. Correct,
Mataji
correct.
Satyamaji can clarify more.
Yeah, you're correct, Madhava. Only thing, yes, there is an wherein there is no for Brahman for people who are aspiring for Brahman realization, there is no element of service. Service attitude is zero, is not there. And like you rightly said, they just want to be safe. Yeah, I don't want to come into it, but they and moreover that realization is incomplete is incomplete. Yeah. So, yes. So, but only in the Bhagwan feature, wherein there is an element of service attitude. So, wherein the devotee is solely working only for the pleasure of the Lord and he is not thinking of himself. So, Mokshakami, Muktikami are all very, very inferior. Are inferior.
Mataji, one last question is that how Krishna is nirguna? I want like more explanation.
Otherwise,
Uh, uh, yes, Madhu. So it is the this thing is like how Krishna is the energetic. He's the one who controls the energy. So the modes of material nature it comes out of him, right? So then it cannot affect him because he's the controller of everything. Just like how the king he makes the laws, but he's not under these laws, right? So similarly, Krishna he from him comes all these three modes, but he's not affected by it. He's transcends it.
so when we say Nirguna means he's not having gunas like us. In that sense, he's Nirguna.
Mm,
In that sense, he's not like, for example, the Lord has a beautiful form, but it is a transcendental form, not the form, a material form that we have. In that sense, they are Nirguna. When you say,
mm,
so, but people often mistake Saguna and Nirguna. Saguna means with qualities, Nirguna means without qualities. But how a devotee reconciles this concept is we understand the Lord has qualities, but his qualities are transcendental. The Lord has a form, but his form is transcendental. In that sense, it is Nirguna. Not that Nirguna means, see, Nirguna has two meanings. Nirguna, one meaning is without qualities. Nirguna, no qualities. That is one meaning. The other meaning, or the most important meaning, is Nirguna means not the qualities as we mortal beings have, but it is beyond, it is transcendental. In that sense, it is Nirguna.
Thank you so much, Madhavi. Thank you, Madhavan. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Madhava. Yes, Devyani. I think Devyani has a question.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, in this chapter mainly we said that we should, not only this chapter, throughout Gita, we are learning how Bhakti Yoga is the supreme. We should worship Krishna directly. We should not worship demigods to satisfy our material desire. So how should we approach a demigod? For example, when I go to a Shiva temple, what should I pray? How should I approach them?
Madhava, go ahead, better. Answer this question.
Yes, definitely. So, like even when we go to different Dham yatras, like especially when I remember when we went to when we went to Tamil Nadu, there are a lot of these Shiva temples and everything. And it's not like we do not respect or we have to ignore them at all. That is completely wrong. Especially like Shiva, he's known as the greatest Vaishnava, right? So when we go to these temples, our attitude should be like, oh, great Shiva, great devotee of Sri Krishna, please bless me so that I can have, the kind of love you have for Krishna. Please bless me that I can also try to have that kind of love for Krishna. So that is the kind of mood that we have to approach other demigods with. We have to treat them with complete respect.
Even if we have material desires, how should we approach Krishna? Should we wait for it to happen, or how can we pray to Lord for that material progress?
See, one thing we have to like understand is that Krishna does not give what we want; he gives what we need, right? So if we, if and also like we won't get anything if we don't like do any work. Like so, suppose I ask Krishna, Krishna, can you give me full marks in my exam without studying? Then that is not possible, right? So we have to do our own work also properly, but also it is not advised to go to Krishna and ask for anything material. We should always ask only for spiritual development. So that is, should be our primary mood. So it is just it's better to avoid asking for material things. Just do the work properly, and Krishna will give you what you need. That is my answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Madhava. See, just now Madhava explained, right, Devyani? Artho, Artharthi, Jigyasu, Gnani. Yeah, 4 types of people approach Krishna. So somebody may be in distress, somebody maybe wants wealth, somebody is inquisitive. All these kinds of people approach. So first and foremost thing, instead of approaching a demigod, you're approaching Krishna. That's the best thing. Even if you have a material desire, you approach Krishna. That is how even Dhruva did, right? He wanted to have a kingdom even greater than his great grandfather. It is absolutely fine. But what happens, like Madhava rightly said, first and foremost thing, what happens? Your desires will get purified. What happened to Dhruva? He said, oh, I'm such a fool. I was doing so much of austerity. I was going behind broken piece of glasses when I had a diamond in front of me. He got the realization, right, Devyani? So similarly, even we may also approach the Lord with some kind of material desire. The Lord acknowledges, because you have also acknowledged that it is Krishna who is supreme, who can avoid even those material desires, and you're not going to any demigod, you're approaching him directly. So that is the best step. That is absolutely fine. You can go. And second part, Krishna will see, okay, if I give this, if I award or bestow this, this desire, whatever the child is asking, if it is good for his spiritual or her spiritual advancement, then Krishna will award you. If it is going to be deterrent, that he may not award you, because ultimately Krishna thinks of your long-term benefit and not your short-term benefit. If it is going to keep you entangled in this material world, then he may not award you. But if the same thing, the desire, is going to help you reach him, then he may award you. That is why sometimes we see even the devotee circle, some have all the desires fulfilled. Some may not have the desires fulfilled because Krishna knows what is best to each individual. Okay, but first point, approaching Krishna for any of your want, that's the best thing to happen. Instead of going to anybody else, you go to Krishna because you understand that even the demigods also get the power of the benediction through Krishna. So that's the best thing to do. No problem. You can approach, even if you have material desires. Then Krishna will decide whether that is good for your long-term benefit or not. Accordingly, he will award you. Does that help you, Devyani?
Yes, Mataji, sorry, Mataji, one more question is there.
No problem.
That
Ask.
is, we preach, suppose somebody wants to embark on Bhakti Yoga, we preach them about Bhakti Yoga, how Krishna is the Supreme Lord, we should worship Krishna. Still, what they do is initially they are very interested in doing Bhakti Yoga, but then in between they are like, oh, with Bhakti Yoga, I'm not getting any benefit, and they go to worship demigods. So, how can we bring them back? How can we convince them to continue on Bhakti path?
Okay. Madhava, you'd like to answer this question?
Mataji, you can continue.
Fine, no problem. So, Devyani, in fact, you will go in the next couple of chapters, you will see Krishna says that means what? When people have such strong material desires, Krishna says, do not disturb them. Let them continue. Don't disturb such people. Why? Because they, first of all, just now, even Madhava was saying, who can take up the bhakti? One who has determination. Only such people. So that means what? They do not have very strong determination. Correct? So such a people, when they don't, and they want quick results, and they don't have the patience to wait, then in that case, such people should not be disturbed. Bhoga Ishwari Prasaktanam Tayapa. No, which was that? Tayapa of the Chesna Samadona Vidiyate. Because they don't have one point concentration because Bhoga and Aishwarya, they are the two obstacles which hinder them to pursue the path of bhakti. You will learn that also. Which is that verse? Bhoga Aishwari Prasaktanam. Can you check that? Verse number? Taya Aparka Chestam. Samadona
Vyavasaya, Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhi
Buddhi
Samadona
Samadona Vidiyate. What's the
Vidiyate.
verse number? Can you get the verse number?
7. I will tell Mataji.
Can you, one of you, check the number? I don't recollect the verse number.
7.4, Mataji? 7.4?
2.44, no?
2 point. Yes.
Sorry,
In the
2.
second chapter. I think you already
Yes, sorry.
learned that. You already learned that. So these are the obstacles, Devyani. Did you understand better? So Krishna says
Yes,
such people,
Mataji.
we should not disturb them. Let them continue in that path.
Thank you, Mataji. I'm clear now.
Haribol. Thank you. Haribol. Anybody has any other questions? Anything to ask? Okay. Radhita, can you say some words of encouragement to Madhava?
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Hare Krishna, Madhavan. Thank you so much for the enlightening class today. We could understand that you understood the topic very well, so that you were able to deliver to us. So thank you so much, and looking forward for your next classes also.
Thank you, Radhita. Thanks, Madhava, for the wonderful session. May Krishna bless you, dear. So before we end the session, can you please do the Vaishnav Pranama?
Mataji, I have a Google form. I
Please,
just put that.
okay, please give that. Yes, please share that. But before you share, and also you chant the Vaishnav Pranama, and so that people will,
Yes, ma'am.
chant Vaishnav.
पञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे.
Thank you, Madhava. Yes, you can post the Google form.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes, ma'am, sir.
Yes, thank you. So I request all of you to please try to do the quiz what our Madhava has posted, and uh, request all of you to please join the session tomorrow at the same time, same link, and we'll be discussing on chapter number 8. So, wishing you all the very best and to have a great day. And thanks once again, Madhava. Thanks to all of you. Hare Krishna. So, and yes. So, thank you. So, with your kind permission, I will end the session here today. And you may all copy and click on the Google form and continue to answer the questions. Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So, with your kind permission, I will end the session here today. Okay. Take care. Bye bye.